The production industry needs creative, talented, reliable, and competent audio humans more than ever. People are coming back out of COVID, coming to events, people are doing gigs, and all the folks that were thinking about retiring during COVID did so. So we are at a deficit. So all that being said, now is the time to level up and make the jump and start getting gigs. So a lot of people have on their minds how to advance in the careers. How do I do that? And that's what I want to cover today. This isn't a deep dive into any one particular subject, but I'm just going to throw 18 points at you, and hopefully a few of them stick or resonate with you in a certain way. Where I pulled this is actually from a blog I started a long time ago. So before I fired up the YouTube channel, I read a book called The Practice by Seth Godin, and he encouraged and challenged the readers to write every day. And he still does this. I think he has over 18,000 blog posts, but I did it for 127 days straight. I think I missed one day in the middle, so I'm going to be real honest, but it has a ton of blog posts. So this is still live. You can still read it at the URL that you can see up there. But I eventually pivoted to my YouTube channel, which is what you're watching now. I thought that was a better use of my time and more helpful for my audience. But anyway, so this is a lot of fun to put together, but I'm actually pulling the outline for this video from something that I wrote back then, and how to grow your career in music and audio production. So I want to share that with you today. I think it's going to be really fun to walk through. Again, I haven't done everything in the world, but I've been doing this 10 or 15 years or so, and would like to share with you what's going on. So here we go. We're just going to go rapid fire through all these. Happy to share with you today, and hope to point you to some other thoughts and resources if you want to dive deeper into one of these. All right, first up, don't hold on to one craft too tightly. So if you were a tape op back in the day and you loved working with the reel-to-reel, you're out of a job today. Technology has evolved. So unless you're Steve Albini, so you're out of luck. So all that being said, technology is going to change our role in relation to it. How we're deploying systems is going to change. So I'm speaking specifically about live sound. So it's good to be able to specialize on certain things, but just know, look at the writing on the wall when something is going to adapt. So always be adaptable. So if you just have a love for this craft in particular of being around live events, experiencing sound, you're going to last a long time. If you're too attached to one particular thing that you're accomplishing, that may or may not be around for the long haul. So really assess, am I attached to this craft, or am I attached to a particular job within it? Which leads us to our next point. Make sure and leverage adjacent subskills to sharpen your overall skill stack. So what do I mean by this? This is something I'll credit it below, but I forget the dude's name. He talks about a talent stack. I learned about this from Graham Cochran. But if you can take two or three things that you're really good at or better at than most people and multiply them all together, that's what makes you unique. And these are all subskills that are adjacent to one another. So for me, in my past, and something I still do, is I master records. So mastering records, when everything went away with COVID and we did a bunch of live streaming, coming to broadcast loudness and metering came really easily because I've been looking at loudness and metering for over 10 years. When it comes to mixing corporate shows, I've done a whole lot of corporate. So during COVID, I worked on a bunch of podcasts to help make ends meet. And so me dialing in lavs and really knowing what the human voice is supposed to sound like really helped me there. So these are all these subskills that are floating around that can also transfer to different parts of your audio craft. So make sure you're multiplying those together and leveraging them as you're looking at your next gig. Number 3, tutorials are a hiding place. I want you to spend twice as much time as you do watching me or Dave Rat or whoever on YouTube as you're making progress, making your own projects and settings. Because it's one thing to watch Rational Acoustics Smart Operator Fundamentals Online YouTube playlist. It's 12 hours of stuff and it's killer. I learned a lot, but it's not until you're actually poking around the software, moving around measurement microphones, screwing things up until you actually learn. So I don't want you to be just a consumer. I want you to be a producer as well. So that's why I'm producing a lot of these YouTube videos in a way, is it's me producing and digesting what I'm learning and putting it out here for you, and hopefully it helps you. You can boomerang that back. You can put that into your own practice, put it to work for you on a show, and then show someone else how to do it. Whether that's not on a YouTube channel or some other platform or just in person, it doesn't matter. But don't just sit and chew on something and not put it to work. Next, maintain a robust learning schedule. I love studying, learning how to learn. I'm just really nerdy about it. But one thing that audio school or even college doesn't teach you is the business or finance side. So you're probably pretty good at music or audio, and you're watching this because you're not so good at the networking, business, or finance side. These are all underpinnings of a successful business. We all have to know it to navigate. So I would encourage you to look at business and finance books. Even though that's not fun for most of us or intuitive, that's something we need to learn in order to advance our careers. Next up, screw the Joneses. You're playing a different game, and that's the long game. As much as I love Sweetwater and Dan Van, my rep, he's awesome. They have great inventory and customer service, or just any other rep or manufacturer. They're in the business of making your current gear setup feel inadequate, right? You're not going to upgrade unless you feel like what you have isn't doing the job. So again, this is not a moral play at Sweetwater specifically, but they want you to upgrade, right? I mean, everyone wants you to do that, spend more money with them. They sell more product, manufacturers make money. So purchasing something isn't bad, but being able to get the most out of your current gear, or when you're assessing purchases, your bottom line matters, right? You need to take in more than you're spending, and voluntary spending is where a lot of early freelancers get in trouble. They're like, oh, I want this cool thing in my Pelican or a great case or whatever. And if you can minimize those, you have more capital to work with and you can stay in the game longer. Next up, consistently say yes to gigs that scare you, stretch you, and challenge you. So you're gonna be offered these gigs that you really don't feel like you're ready for, but within a certain tolerance. It's kind of like middle 10% of like, I don't know, but you feel still supported. You have enough time to study and say yes to it. Absolutely say yes to it. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. Yes, you're still gonna make mistakes, but that's how we grow, to be stretched. Next up, if someone could look at you 2 hours into setup for a show and say, yeah, you've got your stuff together, you've won. That's usually about the point where someone can tell that they're worth their salt or not. Because if you can solve problems on setup, you can run a crew, you can have your plan together. If you're not making progress, that usually says to a lot of people like, hey, does this human know what they're doing? So really focus, especially if it's your first show with a new company or a new set of freelancers, whatever. Excuse me, really focus on getting a good flow on setup. It's very important. Next up, share what you're learning and what you already know generously. So teaching something clarifies your own thinking on the subject, and it gives others a gift on their own journey. Again, that's what I'm doing here. I think you should too. Even if it's just your mom for a while, that's what it was with my blog. Again, it wasn't until like 50 or 60 blog posts in that anyone really saw what I was doing. It didn't even get that big. It was really, and same thing with my YouTube channel. The first month and a half, I had 5 subscribers, I think, right? So you have to start somewhere, show regularly, and share what you know. Next, earn trust in both your local coffee shop and your blog archives. So I want you to expand on 2 fronts here, right? I want you to be hyper local and really good online, which means, the entire internet, the entire world. If no one in your local coffee shop or your local production companies knows your name, you're obscure. So this is, I think, Tom O'Reilly, not Tim O'Reilly, whatever, some guy named O'Reilly, when all this pirating of music stuff was happening, said piracy isn't the problem, obscurity is. It's a bigger problem if no one knows who your band is than if they're pirating your music. And now with Spotify making virtually nothing per stream for most bands, you make money on merch, doing shows, and ticket sales, right? So if no one knows who you are, they can't come to your show. So basically, obscurity is the problem. So be known locally. And again, like I said earlier, publishing regularly online is going to help establish trust with those people. I can't tell you how many gigs have come to me just from someone coming across one of my YouTube videos saying like, hey, this guy seems nice. Seems like he knows what we're talking about. Let me reach out to him and see if we can work together. I've gotten dozens and dozens of gigs just because I have little digital Michael running around the internet sharing something, and that earns trust. And that's what's happening here right now. So again, you can choose what to do with the information, whether or not you like what I'm sharing or not, but I'm going to keep doing it because I keep learning, I keep growing, and it helps build relationships with others, even when I'm not in the room with them or when they're on my shows. Next up, assume people know what they're talking about until they're clearly full of it. You can tell someone who's more out of depth in their conversation, they're going to try and make up with their lack of knowledge. So assume positive intent until someone proves otherwise, right? So next up, be the one who adds energy to a show instead of takes away from it, right? You want to be someone who shows up and people are happy to see you. They know you're going to work hard. Again, we all have personal stuff that happens and can't always be, happy-go-lucky 1,000% of the time. But bringing that energy to a show pays huge dividends when someone who's going up to recommend you for something else or keep you in their Rolodex when they're booking other freelancers. Next up, make progress on projects and learn out of your own accord, not because someone's dangling a carrot or a certificate in front of you. These industries that we're in, event production, eats incompetency for lunch. As much as I don't like that, we need to have a kinder learning environment in my opinion. But it means if you're a freelancer, you need to be learning on your own. And so it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself, but it's self-directed learning. So that means you're reading books, you're going to seminars, you're paying for training, you're going to hang out with production companies, you're learning new gear. If someone gets a new console in the shop, you're going out of your own time to go to their shop, see if you can get on that console and learn it, right? Taking that initiative, being curious and learning not only shows it means a lot to other companies who see that you're actively learning, but you're getting to take that knowledge and do better on gigs for it. So it's a win-win in my opinion. All right, got a few more here. Employ yourself in two roles, support and specialists. So the support person sends your invoices, schedules meetings, and becomes ruthlessly efficient so that I can free up your specialist self to study, know their stuff, show up 15 minutes earlier, and knock the show out of the park with confidence, right? So just two halves of your brain. You have your CEO hat and your COO hat. I want you to get 1% better every day for a year. This is from James Clear, his Atomic Habits book. That means it is a 37x improvement. So that's 1.01 to the 365th power is 37. So again, it's not a cram for the night before test. It's a long haul, long game that you're choosing to learn. Next up, if audio is still a side hustle, keep an inherently social day job. So coffee shops are a much better place to make friends than the back warehouse of a UPS store because you're meeting people, it's social, people come to hang out at coffee shops, music people are going to be there, production people come hang out there. And so no matter what you're doing, it could be a skate shop, whatever, just choose a place that's inherently sociable that can get your name in the community. If you have to chuck boxes at midnight, I get it. Please provide for yourself and for your family. But we need to leverage all aspects of our life that can help get us to where we want to go. 3 more here. Make a careful distinction when reflecting on a rough show project on the root cause of error. When something goes wrong, it's easy to beat ourselves up and blame ourselves. It's very hard, especially on a high-profile show when that's a lot of pressure. But really think about, was this due to a crazy setup and something got missed? Was it true incompetency, just a fat finger? Are you new? Was your PM a jerk? Was there a gear failure? Was someone lazy? So really defining the root issue can help from you taking on more than you should, and then also knowing what to get better next time. 2 more. I want you to be the cleanest cable roller this side of the Mason-Dixon line. What I mean by that is people will see your work, and if it's clean and detailed, they're going to assume that's how you are in your brain as well. Taking time to use right angles, be organized, your work will speak for you and earn trust. And last one here, sometimes a generalization is a specialization. So as much as I think it's good to be a specific person that someone wants to look for, again, you need to be able to transition from earlier on in your career when someone says, hey, I need AA1, and you get plugged into the slot. Later on, someone's going to say like, hey, I want Michael Curtis, not just any A1. But what's cool is early on when you're having to like think through this back and forth of specialization versus generalization, specialize because I want to do this one thing, and generalize because, well, I need to take any gig I can because I need the money. That's hard. But sometimes generalization is a specialization. That I have a friend, you can throw him in any department, audio, video, lighting. His name is Rick. He's just like a happy-go-lucky guy. He gets along with anybody. And he's also competent. He could program lights. He can cut something on video. He can be an A2, knows how to mic people up, knows about wireless. He can mix a show, whatever. He just knows enough in each of those domains to get by on most level of shows. And so he's literally on something. I'm on a show this week just to be there as like, okay, if someone in the department goes down or gets pulled off on something else, he can step in and do a really good job. So that's just a really cool thing. All right, so those are 18 kind of one-liners of how to think about and grow your career. Here are some follow-up books and resources I'd recommend for you. First up is So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. This is basically how to not rely on passion alone to grow your career, because often the whole point of the book is that passion follows mastery, not the other way around. And so sometimes we feel drawn to a subject and are curious about it, and that's great, but it's not until we usually get really good at something until we develop a passion for it. So do that first. Next is The Business of Expertise by David Baker. I love that one because it focuses on really getting good at your craft. He has a great exercise called Drop and Give Me 20. So read the book and check that out. And the antithesis of that book, or just to go into think about, it's called Range by David Epstein. And this really got me thinking about the balance between being a generalist and a specialist. And so don't specialize too early. Again, we cannot make adjacent subskills if we're always just in this one narrow lane, right? And so as you go out later on in your career, it usually comes to a point, but not always. So early on, be able to pull from a lot of different scaffoldings and build it up, and then eventually later on specialize. Next is Ultra Learning by Scott Young. This is about Scott Young. So it's learning how to learn. Right. And so we are lifelong learners. So it makes sense to invest in a system and a methodology for learning, because again, we have to do this on their own. If you're a freelancer, you could be on staff at a production company or something else. But again, a lot of your learning isn't usually directed by someone else. You're not being dictated from on high. Here, hey, go do this. It needs to be from within you. So I lost that book. Here it is. Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. This is a learning management system or personal knowledge management system that he's developed for how to take all the information that you're learning, you're taking in. Because let's be honest, the barrier to entry is only becoming steeper and steeper because 20 years ago, you didn't have to know what a network did. You just push faders on analog desks. Now we have digital desks. There's networking. There's OSC. There's RF, that's digital now. There's fiber. There's all these other technologies that are coalescing and becoming normal in the industry that did not used to be the case. So we're no longer having to solder our own crossovers in the field now. So there's definitely some differences. But I would say that being able to keep up and expand upon what you're doing and fluidly access what you're learning is a really good thing to do. All right. That was a lot. Thanks for sticking with me. My name is Michael Curtis. I'm here to help you grow your career live audio and get better results out of your sound systems. Let me know below which one of these 18 rung true with you the most. I'd love to hear from that if you'd like for me to talk more about career advancement stuff in later videos. Thanks for watching.